Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Speaking and Communicating podcast. We are very privileged today to have Ashley Shawbuck, who is an exercise physiologist. She used to own a fitness studio that was mostly dedicated to women to not only focus on improving their physical health, but mental and spiritual health as well. Before I go any further, let me welcome Ashley.
Thank you so much, Roberta. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. I'm very intrigued, especially with how you connect both all of the mental, the physical, and the spiritual aspects to our body image issues. Now, the first question I have is, do you find that it's just grown-ups who suffer from body image issues or the younger generation as well?
I would say both. Absolutely. Yes, it is. It is a problem. Sometimes for kids, believe it or not, even as young as 4, I hear about sometimes girls that young in ballet, looking at their bodies already, feeling inferior. Yeah. And then a lot of times those things just follow people through their life.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not, and I don't want to make it sound like it's just girls either, like boys and men do deal with this as well. Yes.
Right, right. What do you think, especially at such a young age, what causes that? What do you think are the main root causes of why anybody would start having issues with body image, especially at such a young age?
Yeah, I think at such a young age, it's really somebody in their life, whether it's kids or somebody they're interacting with, is telling them that something about them is not right. And it's bringing that to the forefront of their mind. Yeah. Because they wouldn't think about that on their own, right?
Especially at 4. No.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So if I'm a parent and my kid, my 4-year-old comes home from ballet class saying something is wrong with their body because of what someone said, what are some of the things that I can communicate to them in order to minimize the significance of that?
Yeah. So I would say, let's look at the bigger picture. Like if somebody is going to say that to you, obviously they're hurting. So if it's something, anytime somebody is saying negative, something negative to you, or not something negative, but something that's attacking you and trying to make you feel bad, that's not somebody that's whole and happy within themselves. Right. And then I would say too, like, where did they learn that that is a bad thing? You know, like that kind of thing, like saying somebody has some fat on their body. Where did you learn that that's a bad thing?
Exactly.
You know, 'cause we all have that. Yeah, exactly.
And therefore, when that voice is loud enough, is there a way that you, especially if you're young, is there a way that over time as you grow up that you can silence it? Or is it something that you just continue to be, whenever somebody says something about your body, you continue to be triggered by?
So I would say that depends on the awareness, how much awareness that person has of the thought. So like we were discussing it, a lot of times when the parents can like be proactive about those conversations and talk to them and create that awareness and not let the child, or do their best, of course, we're not completely in control here, but we do our best to have those conversations so the child isn't internalizing those outside voices and making them their own. That's what I would say. And then, so with children, it's tricky because they're not going to have a lot of awareness on their own thoughts as they go about their day. But the more mature a person becomes, the more they can create that awareness of what they're actually thinking. And is it fact? And is it my actual thought to begin with? Because these self-hating thoughts are not actually ours to begin with. They are always learned.
Right, right. So if you are older, especially if you practice some of the techniques that help you become aware of your thoughts, you can actually start to sift and say, hello, you know what, I don't think this is me. Thank you for sharing, goodbye, and sift those thoughts through. But children are very susceptible, especially in this age of social media. I'm almost 46. When I was growing up, there was no social media, there were no cell phones, and therefore you did not have a lot of social outside influence on how you look, how you're supposed to feel about yourself. Look, it has come with good things like having access to the very techniques that we're talking about that can help you. But now parents have to contend with so much, these many voices, while raising their kids. Do you have children?
I do. I have a daughter. She's 8.
She's 8. Wow. What's her name?
Her name's Lily.
Lily. So what is it? First of all, is she at a stage where social media is starting to have an impact? She's starting to notice things?
Not social media, but she has come home to me. I want to say as young as 7, she's had a comment saying that people, I don't know if somebody made a comment to her or she was just hearing about people's bodies and she was insecure about her belly. And so we had a huge long discussion about that. And, I made sure that she understood that whole situation, so she wasn't taking on those thoughts as hers, but no, so she's not into social media yet, but that is
She's
definitely
below
something,
18. Yeah.
like that's definitely something that is on my mind, and her dad and I are going to be on the same page, but he's the tech guy, so I'm going to make sure that he's researching the things that we
all
can
the parental controls and
exactly
monitor her activities as she grows up. But yeah, as I find that late teen years, that's when they can start to register for Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts. And here's the thing, we are human. There's so much that we aspire to. We want to feel validated and loved and seen and heard. And we now live in a culture where the popular rich people are the ones that, the majority of the population wishes, that's the kind of lives that they wish they lived. If I was 18 and I see that, and I come home to you're my mom, so Ashley is my mom. I come home and she says to me, oh, honey, you're fine. Your body is fine. This is fine. But I want to be like that Instagram model who was married by the millionaire guy because he saw her on Instagram.
Yeah.
How do I, wishing for that millionaire lifestyle, how is it that you're going to have an impact as my mom to sort of say to me, you know what, you don't have to aspire, you're fine, you're good enough just the way you are? Does that even work?
I don't think so. So, because you're kind of telling her or him what to think, what to do. And what I would suggest is ask more questions. I would say, well, why do you want to look like that? Why do you think that having more money is going to get you a man or a significant other or whatever? Ask questions and then understand clearly where they're coming from, and then zoom out and talk about it. That's what I would say. So if they're saying, well, I feel like I need to look a certain way to get a man or
attract that kind of man. Yes.
And I would say
like the Instagram models, and they do get those, because at the end of the day, like I said, we unfortunately have created a culture where the most popular are the ones that everybody worships. The richest are the ones everybody worships. So why wouldn't your kid want that?
Yeah, because again, like we were saying before, you're seeing people's highlight reel. Like just because somebody has a lot of money and they have all these cars and they have all this stuff doesn't mean they have a beautiful, connected, deep, loving relationship. And it all depends on what you want. And that's what I say to her. Look, if you want a relationship where you want somebody to want you for your body and in exchange for kind of a certain lifestyle, well, then that's the life you're going to have. But if you want something that's deeper and somebody knows you on a deeper level and it's more connected, and I think these are the conversations that need to be had with the parents and the children.
Because it sounds to me that could be one of the things that feeds into the body image issues.
Oh,
that your clients are dealing with.
100%. Yes.
Yep. Because everybody just seems so all put together, looking perfect in bikinis and in the yacht, and they're all size zeros. I didn't even know there was a thing as size zero before I came to America. And they're all size zeros, and they seem to have everything that everybody aspires to. Then it would make you start thinking, hey, wait a minute, if I look that way, I would be able to eventually manifest that kind of life. So when your clients come to you and they have body image issues, what do they say are some of the when did they start, and how do they feel when did it started?
It is so different for everybody. Sometimes it is at those very young ages, sometimes it's the teenage years, but it's usually by the teenage years for sure that things start. And a lot of times they remember. Sometimes it can be watching, sometimes it's not even the parents saying anything. It can be the mother weighing herself all the time, the mother's relationship with the food, or say the dad is commenting on their ice cream, or about, oh, well, don't eat that, you might gain weight. Or I hear that all the time. Yeah. And even too, like sometimes it's doctors, like kids or people will go to doctors and they will feel shame around that. And It's lots of different
I
things. And
feel
that's,
so bad for parents right now hearing you say that, because think about it. If I've eaten too many sweet things that day, my mom or my dad should be able to tell me, honey, you've had enough ice cream.
mhm.
But then you're saying I could interpret it to mean that my
Oh, well,
body
no,
needs to make weight.
some people have grown up with parents where they're going to be like putting fear into don't eat that ice cream because you're going to gain weight.
To
And they
gain
say
weight.
that straight out, like
Wow.
that kind of a thing. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so your clients might have had those experiences from
Yeah.
home, and they
Mhm.
grow up with that.
Yeah.
Before they come to you, do they say they have tried anything and it didn't work?
Oh, they've tried everything most of the time. Like most
Mhm.
of the time, my clients that have come to me, I mean, are you talking about things to
To try
change?
and lose the weight now, because
Okay, to
now
change
they
the
have
look of
this
their
body
body.
image.
A lot of times, yeah, because a lot of times what happens when people have these experiences,
Mhm.
then they get kind of tied into that diet culture, the fat exercise culture. So they've tried everything. And that's where I
Mhm.
was too. I mean, I did every workout under the sun. I've tried like every diet until I went and I kind of learned the science of all of that stuff and then the mindset behind all of this stuff and
Mhm.
you know how body image affects it and how the diet culture affects it, and it's
Right,
just one
right.
big thing and it's different for everybody. And that's why I love doing consults with people, actually, because we would sit down for about 2 hours and I would hear their story from childhood
Mhm.
on, because I want to know all of that stuff, because it's for me to be able to coach them, I needed to know that information.
So take us, you mentioned the science, to take us through the science of it. So it's not just diet and exercise like we are told. Is there more to it?
I mean, what the science of, are you talking about the science of fat loss, or what are you
Of
referring to?
because it sounds to me like it's not just the eating. If they have tried different things, the more to it, the spiritual aspect of it, the inner dialogue aspect of it,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it sounds to me, especially with the ones who came from a teenage pain of what their parents said about their weight, what is the connection? If you can just take us through that.
So I think there might be, I want to get clear on your question, because I think
Right.
you asked me what's the science of it, or
Yes. First, let's talk about the science of
Mhm.
it, and then later, if you can then transition to the connection between the outward physical aspect and what they mentally or spiritually is going on
Okay.
within that connects
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the science of it, like there are different ways that people can do. I mean, really, the biggest thing with exercise, you have to like what you're doing.
Mm.
Like,
Which most of us don't like, I'll be honest, I don't.
and that's the thing. We have to find some form of movement that our body likes, whether it's walking, whether it's rock climbing, yoga,
Mhm.
something, something. Because this is the thing, they get stuck in these like fad exercise programs that are like, oh, this is the way, it's the golden way, the only way. And it's just like, oh my
You get to
gosh.
eat bread once a week and you'll still lose weight.
Right. Like, and that's a whole other thing. So nutritional science,
Mhm.
there's that's a whole other conversation. But again, you have to like look at, if you want your body to look a certain way,
Right.
right? And you want to lose weight and you want to keep it off, you have to eat in a way that you're going to eat that way forever, or at least something very similar. People will go on these diets and then they think, oh, I'll figure out maintenance later. No, maintenance has to be built in. But when you're on these fad diets too, they're not tailored around you and your physiology. Like, you need to learn how to eat in a way that is going to stabilize your hunger, stabilize your cravings, so you are able to be satisfied throughout the day and not
Mhm.
like eating more calories than your body needs just because you're craving, because of the types of foods that you're choosing to eat.
Right. Mhm.
So yeah, so there's a lot of science that goes behind that stuff, but really it's about tailoring it to you, because what works for your best
It's not
friend,
on a one size fits all.
it is
That's why
not.
diets don't work.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes, you have to tailor it to you, and that's why like your best friend could be doing something that could work great for them, and
for her.
you can
Mhm.
probably force yourself to do that for a while. But if it's not really a good fit for you, eventually you're going to
Not
lose the willpower.
sustainable.
And that's
Mm.
a normal human thing to have happen. And that's a
Mhm.
whole other discussion. People will do that and then they feel like a failure. They feel like they're the failure. And it's like, no, your plan just
Wow.
set you up for to fail because it wasn't tailored to you.
Mhm.
And
So
eventually you run
that's
out
the
of willpower.
scientific explanation for why they sometimes don't work. And then what about then the initial teenage years seed that was planted for you to feel a certain way about your weight, body image, that then takes you to adulthood, and then you continue to have these problems actually.
Yeah, so we can look at that from the two extremes. So a lot of times what happens is people are on one extreme or the other with this. And so I was the perfectionist type, where these thoughts of my body motivated me to work out, diet. And again, I would lose weight and then it would rebound because it wouldn't stick, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is the perfectionism fueled me to do these behaviors. Other people, it can have the complete opposite of where they have this shame that is making them want to crawl in a hole and be like, I don't want to work out today. I'm already gross. Like, if that makes sense, it's kind of, or I'm just going to eat that cookie because I already feel gross anyways, so of course there's
very negative emotion associated with it. I think the perfectionist one is also not exactly positive.
No, it's not. No, see, that's the thing. Both are still motivated by shame. It's just that one side, the shame motivates them to do nothing. And then the other side, the shame motivates them to try and do all the things.
Yes. Okay. So is there something that people can do in order to start working on this in the way that connects them, to the inner self, so that they are able to not only work on the physical, the exercise and the diet, but still that it goes deeper? Because I feel like they keep going on these cycles because there's just something missing there. What is that, and what can they do about it?
Yeah, so most of this is, we have two separate things. Most of it is rooted in the body image piece, right? My body has to look a certain way for me to be worthy, and then how that affects our food and exercise behaviors, right?
Right.
And then we also have the diet and the diet culture, the fat exercise culture affecting the way that we think about food, the all or nothing, right? I'm on the wagon, I'm off the wagon. That's the diet culture, right? So those two things, when they're together, the body image being the root, like my body has to look a certain way, and then a relationship with food and exercise. So it's really looking at both of those things. It's really, and this is why it's hard, because unless somebody's there pointing this out to you, sometimes people don't see it. They feel a certain way, they think a certain way because of what they've been told, but it's hard to see it in a different way if you are not presented with that other way of looking at it. Does that make sense?
So that's all you've been exposed to.
Exactly. And and that's why part of what I do within my social media now is really helping to create this awareness so people understand what's going on, so then they want to work on it. Yeah.
Right. So what are some of the things that you can share with us today that people can start doing if they feel a certain way, if social media influences them negatively on how they view themselves and their bodies? What are some of the things they can do in order to start working towards feeling much better about themselves?
Yeah, so if we're talking about social media specific, I would really go through your social media and look at what you're following and say, does this make me feel good? Is this helping me to be the best version of me? Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, that is so powerful, because we have to really look at what we're letting into our mind every day if we're on social media every day. And like, because we said earlier, social media can be such a powerful tool for good if we're using it in that way, but it can also
if you use it the right way. Because think about it, the Victoria's Secret models are the ones with millions of followers. A lady in my neighborhood who does charity work has less than 500.
Sure.
So she's not seen by a lot of people. Her work is not influencing a lot of people because she's only got 500 people following her. But then you have these millions of followers. I only show up in a bikini type. They are the ones whose images are seen by millions, influencing millions. How can we just sort of ignore that noise?
Yeah, so for me, what I say, and this is easier said than done, but from the journey that I've been on, and now that I'm at this deeper place within myself and awareness of my life and my life purpose here, that brings someone so much more joy and fulfillment to their life than focusing on what somebody that has 1 million followers is doing. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think as an adult, it's easier. I'm thinking of these teenagers who are now 18 and starting to sign up for Facebook and Instagram accounts, because those who they tend to follow.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that's where the parents come in, and like the best we can continue having those conversations and asking our children, hey, what are you, because it's tough when they're 18, 19, like you're not going to continue looking at their stuff. Like there comes that point where you're just not going to do that anymore, obviously. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
and yeah, just educating them, be like, this is what's going on in the world. This is what is happening to your peers if you're not using the social media responsibly. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything you can share with us on how we can communicate with ourselves with all these outside noises?
Mhm.
What do we tell ourselves? What should our inner dialogue be like, especially when it comes to how we view ourselves?
Yeah. So first of all, we want to create that awareness around our thoughts. So if we're having a negative thought, instead of literally just taking it for face value and believing it, say, you want to look at that thought and say, first of all, is this even true? How do I know it's true?
Is this even true? Yeah. Yeah.
And where did this thought come from? Like that. So start doing that work of figuring out where it came from and working to release it. Yeah. And over time, you'll notice that you'll have less of those thoughts, but they're not going to go away completely. But the better you become at getting in the habit of looking at your thoughts and kind of noticing that your thoughts aren't really actually your thoughts. Because like we said earlier, any of these negative thoughts that we have going on in our head are not our deeper spiritual essence. Like they are not actually
Definitely
ours.
not.
Taught. They have been put in our head from some external source, whether it was media, family, people we met in our life, something that's not us. Yeah.
So question your thoughts, be aware of them.
Yeah.
And even ask whether what I'm thinking right now about myself is true.
Yeah. And where did that come from?
I don't think we even take the time to do that. We've become so accustomed to being, we like a tape that just keeps playing every day. We're on autopilot. Yep. We don't even think we have so much to do, so much to take care of. We don't even take the time to think, what am I thinking and why is that? Where did it come from? Is it even true?
Yes, exactly.
Does journaling help with that?
Oh yeah, that I'm so happy you brought that up. So it's funny because I'm not like a typical journaler. Like I don't have a journal, but I will do writing meditations, as I call them, on my computer. So if I have something that's bothering me and I can't figure out why, or I'm trying to get to the root of something, I'll literally just write on my computer. I'll ask a question like, what's going on? And then I just keep writing until I come to
something comes to the forefront. That's right.
Yeah.
I've done that exercise as well. Yeah.
So I love that. I do that pretty frequently, actually.
Writing meditation, it's called. I like that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Is there a specific area you'd like me to touch on?
I know when we talked earlier, you touched on we've discussed the social media, we've discussed the meditation and checking your thoughts. I want us to just touch a little bit on boundaries before we close. Yeah. Because not only do I feel like that's relevant to when people say things to us, if there are boundaries, if we have healthy boundaries between us and the outside voices, I think that it can help curtail some of the negative stuff they might be feeding into us. Yeah. What do you think of that?
Yeah. So I always talk about boundaries as being part of the self-care part of self-love, actually, from one of those components. Yeah. I mean, boundaries with thoughts, boundaries with other people, boundaries. Yeah. And again, it always comes back to awareness and checking in with our body. Right. And it's interesting. I'm dating this guy right now, and he knows my thing is sleep and his thing is food. Like as far as the things are, like I need my sleep. But I invited him out, and he's like, you know what? My body is just telling me that I need to stay home today and I need to rest. And of course, I totally honor that. But being able to be aware of that and communicate those things to people. But of course, you are not in control if somebody else doesn't respect your boundary.
Yes, you teach people how to treat you. Absolutely. Had he said, my body feels that it needs to stay home, but I need to please my girlfriend Ashley and go out against my body's wishes, he would have then proven that he doesn't have healthy boundaries. Right. Right. Yeah. Which means not just you as his girlfriend, but any outside noise about how he feels about himself, how he feels about his body, and how he sees himself in the world would have that much of an impact. Right. And this is why
like exploring that self-worth work is
Mhm.
huge with boundaries, because if we're not living in our self-worth, it's really hard to establish those boundaries and stick to them, because it's easy for people to
Right.
kind of talk us out of them, and that whole thing.
When
So
you don't have them, you're just blown by the wind in every direction.
absolutely, yeah. And then
Mhm.
people are tired, and yeah, and just sometimes emotionally exhausted too for a lot of people. Like a lot of
Mm,
women who are
mm.
people pleasers, things like it's exhausting. Yeah.
Especially because society not demands, but society expects us women to be people pleasers because we're the nurturers, we're the ones taking care of everybody else.
Yeah.
And then it does feed into this people pleasing persona that we develop as we grow
Mhm.
older. So
Yeah.
establishing healthy boundaries is usually a challenge for more for women than men. I mean, I know there are men who have that challenge as a challenge as well, but I feel like we suffer from it the most.
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually, I'm happy you brought that up, because that was something we would always talk about in the
Mhm.
studio as well. Because if you think about it, if you are just people pleasing all the time and you're draining your energy in this way, where is your energy to focus on your physical self, to get your workouts in, to make yourself a
Mm,
healthy meal, to make sure you're sleeping or meditating or whatever? There's no energy and time left over for you,
mm,
for your
mm.
self-care, so that's why we actually talked about a lot of those things, not even just body image related, but also how
Overall.
overall, and how it affects your life, and how you're prioritizing certain habits, and it's all intertwined. It really is.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. This has been such a transformational discussion, Ashley. Thank you so much for being here today. But
Thank you for having
before
me.
we go,
Mhm.
you need to share with us where we can find you, your social media handles, your website, anywhere where people can find you if they struggle with these issues so that they'll be able to find the kind of help that they need.
That would be wonderful. So my business is actually called Live From Your Soul, because it has that spiritual perspective, and it's about
Okay.
helping women take their worth off their body, get rid of that voice in your head that's telling you your body has to look a certain way for you to be worthy, for you to feel good enough.
Mhm.
Work on getting rid of that so we can have a healthy relationship with food, exercise, not be thinking about our body all day, right? So that's kind of what my business is about. So you can find
Right.
me. My website is called, it's lfysoul.com. So short for Live From Your Soul.
Live from your soul. So
Yep. Mhm.
LFYSOUL.
Correct.
lfysoul.com.
Yep. And
Okay.
then I'm going to have the links to my Instagram. And also, I'm starting a brand new online community through Mighty Networks. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's like a
Mhm.
Facebook group, but external kind of a thing.
Okay.
So super excited about that. And all the links will be on the website.
On
In
the
it.
website. Okay. LFY Soul. Everybody, if you struggle with body image issues, if you struggle with boundaries, if you struggle with that inner voice that is still negative based on whatever childhood experience you had that carries you through to adulthood, you know where to find Ashley Shawbuck. Thank you so much, Ashley, for being with us today. This
Thank
was a
you so
wonderful
much, Roberta.
discussion.
Oh,
All
I
right.
really appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.